Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation. In this episode, Dan, John, and I continue our ongoing Sword in the Stone journey, using this classic book as a guide to examine the world we live in today. What began years ago as a shared exploration of education and mentorship has become something unexpected for me. Dan graciously helps me navigate difficult but important distinctions. For example, in this episode, we talk about the difference between fascism, communism, and socialism. So yes, he is fulfilling his role as an educator, but beyond that, I value his friendship and time. Dan is a busy man, and I truly appreciate his enthusiasm to discuss this book with me and the philosophical conversations that tangent from the chapter we are exploring. You don't need to have read the book in order to enjoy this episode, but I highly recommend it. We also speak about the loss of one of the great storytellers of our time, Rob Reiner. I am grateful to call Dan my friend and love the opportunity to learn from him. I hope you enjoy this episode. If you do, please share this podcast and rate it on your platform of choice. You can also take one extra step to show your love by donating to the show on my website or patreon.com/SifuMimiChan. For comments or suggestions, reach out on social media at SifuMimiChan. Now, on with the show. Hello, Dan. How are you?
I'm good. It's the least wintry December I can remember. I know there's no such thing as climate change, but a lot of rich people are losing money on the ski resorts this year. Oof, it's bad.
Oh, well,
It's the week before Christmas and it's 60 degrees in Utah, and we're supposed to be the greatest snow on earth, and there ain't none. So let's hope for the best.
well, it's a little bit more like a Florida winter then.
Yeah, yeah. Which we need the water. But things are good. Training's going well. I'm writing a lot. I'm helping other writers and helping other people. It's been good. Life's good. Yeah.
Of course you are. Of course you're helping
Yeah.
other people. That is what you do.
Yeah.
Because as you know, most of what you do makes a difference. So, and that's
That's
why you do it.
every day in every way. Cheers to you. Yeah.
Cheers.
In fact,
Well,
if you don't mind a little bragging,
please.
I was just given an award from the Hand and Heart Foundation here for my generosity to the arts. I sponsor Utah Presents and Hot House West, and I forgot about this, Utah State Track and Field. I bought
Mm.
them a new cage for indoor throwing. So yeah, but yeah, it's important to me. Trying to make a difference. That's crucial in my life. Yeah, yeah.
I know this. I know this. I mean, and what I love is that it seems like you have kind of an endless amount of energy to do that because you're always so giving, and then you keep giving more and more. I'm like, where do you find the energy?
It
It's
might be.
amazing.
I think anytime, my doctor, Dr. Brunetti, one thing he tells me when you look at, like your blood lipid panels, or you look at your testosterone levels, or you look at your blood pressure, you don't ever look at a static point. You always look at the trend. And what I notice is in life, once you start trending towards good, you seem to get better and better. And on the flip side, if you trend to being a poopy person, you trend worse and worse and worse. And we just saw it this week with, the death of Rob
Oh,
Reiner, who I
I
was,
am devastated.
and I know very few people that when they'll go, we talk about Rob Reiner, and God bless Rob Reiner and his wife
Yeah.
being murdered. That's just so not right. But whether it's Harry Met Sally or
Oh,
Sally or Stand By Me
mhm.
or
Princess
Spinal Tap
Bride.
or
Oh,
Princess
Spinal
Bride,
Tap. Yes.
everybody goes, "Oh yeah, I love that movie." You'll
Yes.
just say one of it, oh, and then you say, "Oh yeah, you don't like those kind of." Well, if I said you can't handle, what was the
You
great
can't
quote?
handle the truth.
You
Yes.
can't handle the truth. That's another, and then to see what that one person in DC said about him just really broke my heart.
It
But
breaks my heart
if
completely. I
you're
am
trending towards
mortified.
being a jerk, you trend worse and worse. And the thing is, that's why everybody needs community to remind you. So my mom, if I'd have said that, would have slapped my face off. We'd still be looking for the rest of my teeth. Uh, in my family, we have people who will stop you from being a jerk.
Mhm.
In my community too. Ah, let's enough of that. Let's get started with Sword and Stone.
Well, holding one accountable and holding each other accountable is certainly, I think, the best way to go through life because, then you become like what you said. You become a
Yeah.
jerk and then you become all the things. But yes, a huge love for Rob Reiner. Like I
Yeah.
was so mortified and literally I just actually got back from England in October and
Oh,
I went to the Peak District where like Wesley rolls down the hill in The Princess Bride and he says as you wish and like she pushes him and so like Oscar and I were there. I did make him like climb up it and kind of run down, but rolling down didn't seem safe, so we didn't reenact anything. But it was so cool, and it was like right at the front of where they filmed for the fire swamp too. So we were like, and like the castle, and so I am like such a huge fan. Like
okay.
so, it was just yeah, and yeah, but I mean, so much love and joy to be able to have brought that into the world is
Yeah.
incredible and what a loss and a horrible way to go but
Yeah.
like thinking about all the joy and I haven't seen the reboot for the reunion for Spinal Tap
Oh,
and
it's fine. Yeah, it came out like for an hour here in
I
Salt Lake at
know.
one theater. And I thought it would be I would prefer to see a movie like that on the big screen because it's also music. So I don't want to sit in my, I mean, we all have massive TVs now, but hey, I wanted to update you on my Sword in the Stone junk. So, I've got a painting here, I've got the original here. But I back here I bought the graphic novel of
Oh,
Disney's Sword
the
in the
Disney
Stone.
one. Yeah, I see it.
And
Boy.
I got to tell you, folks, it disappoints as much as the artwork is good, but the
Oh my
movie.
goodness.
Um, I took the entire family to Disneyland. And by the way, that is the actual Sword in the Stone, much smaller than you would think. Yeah. But I was able to find Disney pins with I don't know how well they'll come up, but
Yes, yes, I
that
see.
is, and then this one I like a lot better. It looks like books flying out of Merlin's head into
Mm.
Wart. So I just want to update that I'm still a geek, and I thought you'd appreciate that.
I would definitely appreciate it. I mean,
Yeah,
I know that you aren't a huge fan of the film, but I have to say these are the type of things where as a young child, like that brought me to the story,
yeah,
right? And
same
so had
thing.
I not had that exposure and love for it and as a child not knowing the brilliance of the T.H. White actual text version and not being able to probably appreciate that just yet, seeing Wart become a fish and
Yeah,
and being chased by a
and that was
barracuda or whatever is
and that was good.
phenomenal.
And I've been collecting through the years a lot of things. I got to do a better job about getting foreign language, but I got a friend sent me a German copy, and I have, of course, the original 1938 copies in that other room in a nicer place. But yeah, I agree with you, and I've said this before to you, is that I went to the library to get some books, and I got three books, and I've moved them around again. Miles Callum's Bodybuilding and Self-Defense, Elliot Asanoff's 7 Days of Sunday. And as I was walking out, the librarian recommended this book. And this is the book that made me a reader. Not that copy, but yeah. So let's jump in on 14.
Okay, so we left off, of course, we left behind the Teenatrix, the snake, this which is kind of interesting because this is the year of the snake in in our Chinese
Hmm,
lunar calendar. So it's nice that we're
okay.
like closing out. We've left the snake
Okay.
behind, not forever, but I just thought that was kind of fun to bring up. I don't remember if I even brought that up last time, but yeah, 14 is one
Okay.
of those chapters where the first
So
time I went through it, I didn't highlight a bunch of things, but then like
because
now that I go through it, I'm like, oh gosh, it's so timely that I actually feel a little underprepared for this one.
I'm reading I'm in the middle, well, two-thirds the way through Great Expectations by Charles
By
Dixon.
Charles Dickens, yeah.
Charles Dixon? Charles Dickens.
Dickens, yes.
Must be a long day. But one of the things that has been lost in modern writing, and you see this chapter 14 is this. It's the setup. It's like what my dad used to teach me about baseball. Baseball can be boring until you know the game because something happened in the second inning that set up the fifth inning, or what happened on the guy got a ball instead of a strike and he got on first, changes the whole game. So chapter 14 is a setup. We only have one character, I think. We only have one character in chapter 14, and it's Sir Ector, who just got a letter. Now, so this is a setup. Now, a couple things are going to start floating out. The first thing I want to say is this, is that he got a letter from the king, Uther Pendragon. Now, only one person in the entire book knows why that's a big deal. And that person often forgets, and that's, of course, Merlin. So, who is Uther Pendragon? Well, he's King Arthur, or Wart's father. He's his father. So we haven't heard we've heard almost nothing about Uther this whole book. I mean, there might be a blessing or two in the early chapters, but also too, I think it's in his 12th year. So, we can also guess that Arthur is probably around 12 right now also, if not 11 and a half, somewhere in that you got that 40 weeks of pregnancy to deal with. But basically, we're looking at Arthur as an 11 or 12-year-old. So Uther Pendragon now shows up. Now, Uther is going to run, if I like to think of the five books, well, I include the Book of Merlin as the fifth book when you go to the Once and Future Kings. So, and I think the first book and the fifth book are by far the best. But what drives the next three books is the fact that Uther, raped Igraine, and well, however you want to look at the story, and because of that, we get Arthur. But because we don't know anything, who we know he's Uther's son because he pulls the sword out of the stone. And I got these at Disneyland. See, that says the sword in the stone. And when you open it up, the one
A
upstairs
little
plays
pop
music.
up.
Little pop up. Okay. When he pulls the sword out of the stone, I know, I'm such a geek.
I love
Uh, we
it.
know that well, we figure out in the story that he is actually Uther's son. Whether or not, some of the lords want to accept it, they don't. But we're never sure about mommy. And what drives the middle three books is the fact that Arthur ends up with his aunt, which causes Mordred, which causes the downfall of Camelot.
Right.
So here we are. It's a tiny little line. Okay. The second thing I really want you to highlight in chapter 14 is understanding Sir Ector. Now, Sir Ector, since the story began, we've thought that, this is Sir Ector, this is his domain. When I was young, people still spelled that Demense, the French style. You could still see it in books, which I always thought was kind of funny. The domain. But really, and he acknowledges it in that he has that kind of running, he's got that running monologue, mental monologue. And it's like he doesn't want to be mad, but it's like, why doesn't he just ask me for three boars? And he basically, I love that one little line where he says, how am I supposed to know where the boars are going to be on Boxing Day? But he also acknowledges it's okay. He knows it's Uther's land. He knows that, but it bothers him because he takes such good care of it. And it's a nice little section where T.H. White lets us know that, you would think that he was just a lord, but he's also a battle chief. He's a farmer, he's a dairyman. He has a lot of jobs. And then there's that great little part where Master Twitey is going to come. And he doesn't know who Master Twitey is. And all of a sudden he realizes that everybody he knows isn't very good with boar hunting. And the one guy he can think of is that Robin Wood guy. And this brings Robin Hood, back into the story. And I think the relationship we'll find in chapter 15 when we meet Master Twitey with Robin, I think is really fun reading. Several times in the book, experts have acknowledged each other's expertise. Think back when Merlin brought that hawk down and then Master Hobbs, and the two of them kind of winked at each other because they both knew they were masters of hockey. Twitey and Robin Hood are going to acknowledge that in each other. And I just think it makes for a cool story where, again, it's not Hector's land necessarily, but he has this rogue on his land named Robin Hood, who he's actually going to invite to Boxing Day because he's the only person he thinks worthy to bring him out on the little fight. I just think, Mimi, that is just a wonderful reflection on the way we, if you ever, this is a good chapter for someone who works in a corporation. This is a good chapter for someone who works in a school. And we used to see, I taught in Catholic schools all the time. And, one of the things people would remind us of is, you start saying, this is my classroom, this is my school, this is my football team. And good principals and good administrators will say, whoa, 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 it's not yours. This is, and then of course, this is the Catholic Diocese of Salt Lake Cities. This is the good people who spent their time, treasure, and talents putting up these walls and windows. And I just think it's great. Now, the last thing is that this is a chapter where you do need a dictionary of some kind with you because there's a lot of names that have kind of fallen out of use. The names of boars, female boars and male boars, and all that just shows up. And as always, T.H. White just throws them at you, doesn't even give you a chance. He doesn't explain the words. And I think that's makes a marvelous chapter. So there's my spiel. Let's begin.
All right. Well, as you know, like I'm all in to geek out all the time. And but what's been interesting is I've had, listeners who really like maybe read the book once or this isn't like they're not just following for this. They really love when we bring in like themes from the book that kind of parallel what's happening now. And this is why I always try to encourage young people, hey, you know what? We can learn from classics and we can learn from the themes that come out in this and not make it feel like kind of a school lesson. And what struck me was I think this is, or is it Grammare? What is it called? Where we're at, right?
Oh,
The place.
Grammari. Oh,
Yeah.
the solarium.
Yes. Well, the
He's a,
like, basically in the parts of it's very feudal, right? So to me
oh,
that like I was thinking about like here we are. There's a line in there. I have to look for it to be
please.
highlighted, but I think it was about how it talked about the quote unquote evil in this feudal system, but it's in people, not in the feudal system, because of course this is coming from the masters. The people that are on the top in the feudal
Yeah.
system are always like kind of like, oh no, 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 this the feudal system isn't the issue. The issue is people who abuse it, or I think that was the exact word, like but the evil was in the bad people who abused it, not in the feudal system. And
Yeah.
as I know that we don't want to get into like politics and things like that necessarily, but when you think about like, well,
Well,
this all stems from history, right? Where things are politically like there's a class system here, there's a very specific hierarchy, and what's interesting to me is that just kind of jumped out this morning when I was looking through it because we literally just had the shootings in Bondi, in Sydney, in Australia, and at Brown University, and it's like I'm really frustrated every time I hear like that guns aren't the issue, it's only the bad people with a gun, and I kind of go, well, when White's writing this, there's a lot of parallel for me that's like, well, now that's changed, when you think about the people who are at the top aren't always thinking of like the good of all and the repercussions of their quote unquote system.
we don't tax billionaires.
Exactly.
I mean, you tell anybody who ever rips on feudalism. For one, I'll tell you this, and this is part of my scholarship, so I know these things pretty well. But with manorialism, nobody went hungry. There was always, I mean, obviously there was diseases, there was issues. Trust me. But if you were in the middle of certain parts of England after the Vikings and after some of the stuff, obviously, but you could live a good life if you had a child who had an issue. There was a monastery close by where they could be raised and taken care of and cured. When you became infirmed or aged, they took care of you. And I am 68 years old and I worry about my finances. I worry about, I mean, inflation, I'm not on a fixed income. I do well with my books and stuff, but all I need is one. One bad thing happened, and everyone says, "I want to burn Dan's books," and I'm dead in the water. I'm on, I'm on my savings and Social Security. And with inflation, savings and Social Security are not good.
Mm-hmm.
And so, here I am on paper. I've got all the benefits because of my skin color and my gender and and all the rest. But I I'll be okay for 2 years or so, three maybe. But feudalism, manorialism, you were safe. There was places where 100, 150 years there'd be no incidents. People got married. Yes, babies died in childbirth. It was sad. People did die young, but not if they. So I'm drinking a hot beverage here. It can be coffee or tea. I'm drinking an alcoholic beverage. It can be beer or wine. But why do we drink those? Because that was the only safe water supply.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the world heated it up to make tea. Part of the world heated it up to make coffee. And part of the world turned duck water into beer so you wouldn't die from the poisons.
Mm-hmm.
But if you did decide to drink the local water, you might have picked up a few things. So, I feel like I'm rambling, but
No, not at all.
it is lovely for me. I still think that the medieval period is was so much is so misrepresented, and a lot of it, Mimi, and I'll be frank with you, is because and I'm going to blame the English from England, is that a lot of them and the Italian Renaissance, they said, look at us versus them. They us and them'd history, which we all do anyway. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. The Book of Merlin, clearly the Book of Merlin is a book about fighting fascism.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, this copy comes from the day it came out in 1975. I bought it the very first day it opened. That's my copy when it was reprinted. This book is about fascism. This book is about totalitarianism. And it's weird because I was striving to watch the head of the FBI the other day tell us that the Antifa is the largest terrorist organization in the United States, and yet he could not come up with a number or a name. And we're getting warned in this book about it, but we're getting warned in The Sword and the Stone too. And I feel like I've gone real political, but it is just hard for someone with my background and my family's background to support that thinking. By the way, my family is my dad got very injured in World War II. I lost some uncles in World War II. My brothers, fought for this country and got injured. And so, I hate to say it, but we're an anti-fascist family,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But
Mm-hmm. Well,
okay, I'm rambling,
well,
but
no,
it's
you're not
okay.
rambling. Well, what's interesting about this to me is like whenever we come across like think works in literature, people kind of go, "Oh, this is a period piece. This is fiction. This is blah 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 blah." But really, it's like, well, there's so much historical context too. Especially these authors, a lot of them do so much research to give you, yes, it's historical fiction, but there are facts like when he talks about the technicalities of jousting and the technicality like he
Yeah,
you could see like there was a lot of research done. And so like just for me, if you don't mind, and for our listeners, because
sure.
I think people get very confused, and it's not necessarily a political conversation versus a I because you're so great with vocabulary and breaking things down in digestible ways. I think the words like fascism and socialism and communism get very like
Okay.
confused. And if you could define them nicely for me,
Fascism,
because yeah, I can say, okay, fascism, you think Hitler, you think you like I can think of the regimes,
but
right? But
there.
then I don't ever have a good argument
Sure.
with like, well,
Now,
here's
here's
what
the
it
thing about
means.
so the concept of fascism comes from fasces, which was a father trying to explain. The dad was in charge and he had three sons, and his biggest concern was what was going to happen after he died. So he gave each of his sons a stick and he said, break the stick. And they all went snap. Then he gave the sons three sticks bound together, and none of the sons could break the stick. That bundle of sticks is fascism. It basically means united we stand, divided we fall. And it is part of the American experiment that, and almost every religion I know, you know, together as one. we are stronger. United, we are stronger. In fact, we have an airlines called United. We have soccer teams called United. It's a very common word.
United
Um,
States.
yeah, the United
A
States.
little on the nose, but
Yeah, and so the problem with living in the United States is we allowed the far right in the 1950s to, just like the word woke, they decided to define a word for the rest of us and then just threw it at us. If you actually study Marx and you read what communism is, I've been to communes, I've been to places in Israel too. The concept of communism was brilliant, and it all came down to this one thing called surplus value. So I work 8 hours a day for my company. And back if we're on a farm, I work 7 hours to feed myself, clothe myself, and everything else. And the last hour I work for the guy who owns the farm. When the Industrial Revolution hit, that 8 hours, and I think about, Ben and Jerry's ice cream had such a great model for so long, and they sold it not long ago. The new CEO is destroying the company, I guess, in real time.
yes.
Uh, yeah. So what happens is, you know, the original plan for Ben and Jerry's, I believe that Ben and Jerry could only make 7 times more than the least paid employee.
Right. Yes. There was like a little bit of equity there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, nowadays I believe I just saw the number this weekend. I think it was on CBS Sunday morning that many CEOs are making 247 times what their employees make. That's a that's a big gap. That's what Marx was kind of saying. Marx's big thing was his thing was if you the more you allow surplus the bigger that gap gets on surplus value, the more you're ripping off the workers.
Hmm.
Socialism, and it's funny because everyone's against socialism until their mom gets cancer.
Right.
Everybody's against socialism until their kid doesn't have a good school. Everyone's socialism. And I've been to some, I mean, if you've been around Norway, Sweden, Denmark,
Hmm.
Denmark is the third largest supplier of food in the world. Have you seen
Wow.
the size of Denmark?
I did not know
No.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
because they have vertical farming now, hydroponic
Ah,
vertical
hydroponic.
farming.
Yeah.
We should be doing vertical farming now.
Oh,
We should,
100%.
I mean, every building in downtown Salt Lake should have on its roof vertical
Yes.
farms,
Yes.
and then on top of that, bird sanctuaries or, urban forest. But you need to have us come together and agree that it's really important to have, save our water, save our resources. And these aren't great explanations, but every political system works. Oligarchies works, theocracies work, religious owned. You can have kingdoms and queendoms. Every system works because underneath it is what really happens. And there's a great movie. I've loved it. It's called The Freshman. Marlon Brando reprises his role in The Godfather. And I love it.
Hmm.
Matthew Broderick
Matthew Broderick. Yeah.
and Kirby. What was Kirby's? He was in both The Godfather. Bruno Kirby. Speaking of, he was also in Harry Met Sally. Bruno Kirby has this great line where he explains how great cities stay alive. You got the rich, you got the poor, and you got guys like me holding everything together.
Hmm.
And in every political system, there's always going to be disparity, but there's always going to be the people who link things together. And I've always thought we need to reward the people who keep things together. Like if you ever go to a hospital, you'll see that the nurses generally hold everything together. In a typical school, there's probably 5 faculty members who hold everything together. I'm sure if you're in a musical group, there's probably 20 players in a musical thing. There's probably 3 or 4 that hold, and everyone
Yeah,
else
like the
is
glue of the group. Yeah.
the glue. And
Yeah.
so, one of the things I think we always need to remind ourselves is what is the glue? In fact, if you think about it, Hector in this chapter, he is talking about the glue. He says, why do we have to do this stupid charade on Boxing Day. Why can't we just tell me how many boars you want? I'll kill them and send them up to you. You know, and he's glooming right there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, and for your American audience, so a Boxing Day is the day after Christmas.
Yes.
It's the Feast of Saint Stephen, which, if you've ever seen Love Actually, on the Feast of Stephen, since Stephen was a deacon, you box up food and clothes for the poor. Therefore, it is Boxing Day. So, and if you ever travel to Ireland, parts of England for sure, but Ireland for sure, you better make sure you have food if you're staying there for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day, because it just shuts down. Two and a half, 2.5 days where nothing is open.
Yeah.
And I was in Selbridge for Christmas a while ago. It was marvelous, and we didn't know that. So fortunately, we did make one good run because the bartender said, I said, can we get a Christmas dinner here? He goes, there's no Christmas. You go home. Oh, oh hell. So we tried to cook a roast with an electric oven. I think it's still cooking right now. So
I love that. Well, I mean, I find it all fascinating because we're so quick to throw around terms now as
yeah.
if we know so much about them. And I do remember like being in school, like as a young
Okay.
child. I remember learning about Marxism and communism
Yeah.
and thinking like, oh, this is what my dad didn't want from China. And so at that time it was like very
Yeah.
red China, in the
Oh
80s.
yeah.
And somebody kind of said something to me, and I don't know if this is true, but it's like a lot of these systems work really great on paper. Like essentially, if this, and this equals this, then it's, everybody gets to
Yeah.
benefit from the work of one another. But what happens is humans are involved. And so we get authoritarianism slash communism slash, like you would get this dictator style, person who is normally not like a like a very like
Benevolent. Yeah.
benevolent lord, right? Like it's like very rare. They're not as nice as Hector, who's like pass the port and
Yeah. It's really quite good. There's the new Knives Out 3 is out, and it's got
Okay.
I think Dead Men Rise Up, Rise Up, Dead Men. And at the end of the show, if you get a chance, have you seen it by any chance?
I'm trying to remember. I've seen, is it the one where they're in like a glass sphere
Okay,
or
that's
no?
Glass Onion.
Oh, Glass Onion. Okay.
That's
I
the
don't think I
second
saw
one.
the next one then. I don't.
Okay, it's just come out.
Okay,
But
yeah,
at
then
the end
no.
of the show, Benoit Blanc, who is the Daniel Craig's character, and the young priest have these really beautiful moments together because Benoit Blanc I'm an agnostic. I think he's an atheist, and the young priest, the respect the two of them have for each other.
Yes.
Benoit tells him, "Do what you do," and he forgives. I don't want to ruin anything. And,
Yeah.
but the priest forgives.
Hmm.
And you could tell that it rattles the Benoit Blanc character. What's
Mm.
beautiful about the film, and I do think there's value. I've liked those three films because I think they do a very nice job of discussing good and evil. I
Hmm.
think a very 30,000 foot view of good and evil.
Okay.
It's, yeah, in the first one, we do have a bad guy at the end of the first one, and that's true. And in the second one, we do have a bad guy at the end. But neither character has become was just all of a sudden I'm bad. Well, maybe,
Hmm.
but that to me is a much more elegant view of what good and evil are. And and I'll come back to what I said earlier about trend. You trend towards good and you trend towards evil. It's I always tell people when they ask me about like fat loss, and I tell them the most important thing to do is give yourself a big hug and then nudge yourself over 4 to 10 years to lose some fat.
Hmm.
So if you lose, I mean, I'll tell you one thing, if you lose a pound of fat, and Mimi, I'm guessing, but if you lost a pound a month for 10 years, I'm not sure you'd be around, would you? I think you'd be kind of.
I appreciate that, but I have some years in me.
No, I'm just saying, if you lost a pound a year, and
Yeah,
I mean that
yeah,
would be 12 times. That's
yeah.
120 pounds. I don't think
Yes,
we might.
that's
I
yes,
don't think
that's
we.
about
I
right.
mean, you might be some fillings in your teeth there, but that'd be about it.
Yes, yeah, no, you're about right.
Yeah. So, but when I tell people a pound a month, they're always like, "Well, that this guy online says you can lose." Yeah, you can. You can lose 30. I lost 40 pounds in 2 months with a liver parasite when I was in the Middle East. Remember
Oh,
that whole thing about drinking water? Yeah,
yes.
trust me, I'm an expert. Don't don't drink it.
Sometimes don't drink it. Yeah, I'm very paranoid about that because I do a lot of international travel and drinking the water. I'm always like Googling, okay, where can you know what? Forget it. Nope, we're just gonna pay the thing and I'm gonna just
Coffee,
get yes,
tea,
yeah,
beer,
beer. Yeah.
wine.
Well, this
Yeah,
is in Asia, a lot of Asia, especially China. When I would do tours and
tea.
stuff, everyone's like, you drink if it's not, and it's got to be boiled. It's got to be hot,
Yeah,
just to make sure. But also, beer was so popular, and I'm like, I hate beer, but it was the safer thing, right? And I'm just like, oh gosh, but
hey,
anything bottled, you're just like, don't
yeah,
drink the water.
yeah. If you lose 40 pounds in 2 months, you appreciate water for the rest of your life. Yeah. 2 months, pardon me, 2 weeks. I lost 40 pounds in 2 weeks. Whew.
2 weeks?
Yeah, I didn't
Oh,
die, but I sure felt like I knew what
well,
that would feel like. Yeah.
oh,
So, I can give you this thing. We'll take you to the middle part of Egypt. We'll have you drink some water because it's 126 degrees, and if you don't, you're going to die of heat stroke. And you can lose 40 pounds in 2 weeks, or you can lose a pound a month and keep it off the rest of your life.
yeah.
And for me, this has been my belief since I was little. Well, in discus throwing, we have a phrase: yard by yard is hard, but inch by inch, it's a cinch. And everything that's ever been important or good to me in my life has always been the inch by inch, the nudging, the trending. And I do know that things have changed in the last 10 years here in the United States, but I'm sure you could probably find people who had their pulse on it, said, no, no, we've been nudging towards these things for a long time. I blame the internet, but the joy of the internet is I can talk to you.
Yes,
The
I
downside
agree.
is that some anonymous person can say horrible things and just, or some lost person can find a guru, a patriarch, a leader that answers all their questions by blaming somebody else.
Yeah.
But we nudge. I think that one of the reasons a lot of people don't like to read certain kinds of books is that a Dickens, a T.H. White, they are kind of nudging you towards this experience,
Hmm.
just a million random thoughts to make your day. Yes.
I love them. No, these are what I live for. I always say, I'm talking to Danny today. I get to learn things. Yay. In a fun way. But
Yeah.
I love the little poem you had with your discus team. I mean, you guys have a little. I'm imagining you like pre meet or game like do my little chant. But no, it's true because I feel, and you and I have spoken about this at length, being a coach and kung fu teacher. It's like the culture or the vibe of a lot of our youth. It's like they just want now, 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 and so they don't
Yeah.
understand the nudging or the inch by inch process because there's such immediate gratification all the time. I was just talking to one of my coaches about this, who's around my age as well, almost 50, right? And it was like these kids have no patience because they've never even had to wait for like a TV show like a week later at a specific time. There was no recording device that you had to like tune in or you missed out and then actually have to wait. Or
Yeah.
comic book readers, like I'm kind of guilty of that. I like to have the whole arc done, but
Yeah.
Oscar is like, I used to have to wait for the next trade, which is like a month. So then you
A
would
month.
reread the trade over and over. And that's how you really got to know about those characters.
Yeah.
And you call them comic book geeks, but it's because they knew it so well because there was the reread, which you and I are doing the rereads,
Yeah.
right? So like
Yeah.
the importance of the reread, and we've gone over this, but I
Mhm.
mean, not everyone's going to go back 17 podcasts later from you and I. And so I feel like that the value of that is lost. Like, well, I already saw that. I don't need to see it again. Or I already read that. I don't need to read it
Yeah.
again. If it was super valuable and just taking your time with it. And I for sure, even though now this has been, I don't know what number we read, but every time I get a chapter with you, I learn something completely new, even if it's a vocabulary word. Like you said, White goes a little nuts in these two
Oh,
chapters. But
yeah.
I'm like, wait, I have no idea. Thank goodness for the iPad because you can just like hover and define, but then,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I was, hold on. I have to, I went, when I went through my notes right before you got me, I was like, I was, I was just going into this section here. Sorry. Okay. So, okay, there's two things I want to bring up, but I'm sorry. I'm looking at my notes and I apologize.
No, no, you're good.
Um, oh, come on. Where is the whole thing?
It's all the
Uh,
names, right?
yeah, it's all the names for the animals.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Wild boars in groups are called sounders. Okay. All right. So there's sounders. And then there's Gorgons, a boar in its second year. Hog steer is a
Yes.
third year boar. Harts are deers. I knew that one. So deer, Gorgons, hog steers. I found that whole just section just because he's just throwing. And the thing is, if you believe like you and I both do, if you believe like both of us in rereading, the first time you go through the book, you're like, you just go Gorgons, hog
Yeah.
steers. But the
It's got to
next
mean
time
something.
you stop and you look up the word. And it is interesting how much better the internet is. When I first started working on this book, the internet didn't have translations for a whole bunch of these.
Hmm.
It's funny to think, it took me 4 years to do that project, right? Four?
Yeah,
Five?
I don't know. It seemed a while, and
Yeah, it's
you
big.
leave,
Yeah.
leave a little paragraph after your newsletter at the end of your.
Yeah. And here we are, a couple years after I finished that, and I go back and these ideas leap off the thing. The one thing I wanted to tell you was, I wanted to mention is there's this idea now, as much as I dislike the movie, they do a nice job in the beginning when they go into the forest and he is being followed in the forest by the wolves, and in the forest is dangerous. That's one thing I think they did a good job in the movie, was showing how dangerous. So in the movie there's a wolf, but there's also Madam Mim in the movie,
Yes, in the
okay?
movie Madam Mim.
And I'm sure if we thought about it, there's a few other things too. But in the book, we've got the questing beast, which I don't know if it'll hurt you or not. I don't know. There's little dragons that they sputter when he has a little line about they're like they steam like kettles, which I thought.
Mm,
There's big dragons, there's outlaws, and don't forget Robin Hood is an outlaw. And then there's those weird part human things.
hmm.
There's witches. There's all kind. The forest is a scary place,
Yeah.
and we have a new thing to be afraid of: the boar. And in the next chapter, it's I think one of the most. There's a section in the next chapter. S- Someone or something dies in the next chapter, and I think the writing around that is as good as it's interesting. Okay. I'm gonna ruin the book for the listeners.
I think it's
But
okay.
a dog gets killed, and in my life, so I'm 68. I've had three dogs in my life: Pink the Wonder Dog, Lexi, and Sirius Black. And I've had a lot of relationships. And I got to tell you from the heart, and this. I don't want my daughters or family members to hear this, but as a man, losing a dog, it's if I say I lost my dog, gosh, look at me right now. When I had to put Paint the Wonder Dog, my coach Dick Notmeyer died last week, so he was in his
Oh,
mid
sorry
90s.
for your loss.
And when I had to put Paint down, I was a Division I athlete. I was 6 foot 230. My neck was up to here. Big unit, big engine. And I walked into the gym, and Dick goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I had to put Paint down today." And he just sat down and he started telling about his dog, Reg, and having to put him down a few years later. Eric Subert walked in, and he walked in and went, "What the hell's going on?" And Dick said, "Danny had to put paint down." And Eric just sat down. And it's the only time I ever remember at the Pacific Barbell Club us not instantly lifting. We sat and discussed our pets, our dogs. And I think in this next chapter, there is a moment where it's almost like one of the few times I've ever seen in that I understood it anyway, that we are given permission as men to grieve. It's okay to cry when you're talking about, I can't cry because Dick Notmeyer died. I can't cry because Tiffany died. I can't cry because Coach Mon and Coach Lahati died. I can't cry because my mom and dad died. But if I talk about my dog, it's okay. And I think there is I don't know, Mimi, if you would pick up on that like I did.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. And if you're not from a place where dogs are kind of like family,
Hmm.
and if you're not like me, it might be hard to understand. But as you read that part in the next chapter, and it's beautiful because, it's just beautiful. I think it's one of the best small sections that I really would like you to explore a little bit more. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'll put that on my homework list.
Yeah, on your,
But
uh,
I think there's something here that actually Oscar and I have been speaking about a lot as we have the privilege and responsibility to mentor a lot of humans, male and female. And one of the things that we have happened upon thematically, especially now, is like permission for our young men to be vulnerable, to have feelings, to be allowed to cry, and just like knowing, like you said, oh, none of these things can warrant crying. And then of course that connectivity with your part of your family is your dog. And I've been around a lot of people who feel the same way as you do. But it's been interesting because I feel like we're in a place where especially our young men can look to people like you who are not just proud of being able to have like feelings and emotions, but one of the first things I remember Oscar telling me about you, he's had your books forever and all of that, but he saw you speak and he was just like, he was just crying, talking about how grateful he was for, his mentors and these things. And he was just so moved by that because Oscar was raised in a strict Catholic household, very different than most Hispanic households. Was like they were actually not allowed to be very boisterous. Like it's weird because his
oh,
cousins are all like
yeah,
loud Dominicans and da 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 da. But like in their house, and I think it was just the way his dad was. He
yeah,
actually was told, "Do not cry, and you're not allowed to cry. If you fall and you scrape your knee, there's no reason to cry about it. Well, whatever." And I mean, I get that we don't want kids to be hypochondriacs or whatever, but
yeah,
as a male, I think there's something very damaging to already starting off with suppressing your emotions. And I
yeah,
mean it's already going to be a thing because it's such a stigma, and especially the place we're in currently with a lot of our male leaders, and this perception that you have to be strong all the time, or you have to be this, or you're not a man. And it's so refreshing and always inspiring to be able to be reminded of that every time I talk to you. But just thinking about the reason Oscar came home and was like, oh my God, Dan John had me crying at this thing. And he was just talking about like gratitude. And so I think it's so valuable. And I really I just want to tell you how much I love that you always share that, and that how
thank you,
you're always
thank you.
so open,
Yeah,
because it makes a huge difference in especially our youth, but even our, you know, Gen X's and beyond. Like none of them were really kind of given that permission.
yeah. And then when you go online and you read these popular authors now, the things they spew, and these guys who want traditional wives. It's like, uh, you don't even know what that means. Or I get this a lot. These young a lot of young men are becoming Catholic, and they want to bring the church back to the way it used to be. I heard that just recently, and I'm like, you don't even know what you're saying. It's like, I want to bring Ireland back to the way it used to be. Oh, during the potato famine? Oh, no, no. Yeah, when it doesn't matter.
The
You just
Inquisition, like which period are
yeah,
we talking?
yeah. I want to bring Mexico back to the way it used to be. Oh, like the Aztecs? Oh, no, no, no. What I mean, you can't. Everybody. And in fact, we even do this with this book. I do it all the time. I glorify the medieval period, you know, and it's funny because, 500 years from now, people are going to be looking at, God, those people in 2025, how did they survive without, hydro lifts and, personal helicopters and whatever the hell it's going to be.
Beaming.
Uh,
I don't like flying, so I'm waiting for the beaming. I don't think
beaming
it's going
up,
to
yeah,
happen in my lifetime.
yeah. So, so I saw the other day a personal helicopter, only $250,000. And I'm like, I'm going to get that, just so I can commute around a little bit faster. Yeah.
I know. But if I got beamed, I would end up like Spaceballs, Mel Brooks in Spaceballs. That's
Oh,
my
that's
problem.
such,
I'm like, I'm gonna end up like Mel Brooks. So
oh, Mel
I
Brooks.
don't think it can happen.
What a gift Mel Brooks
Oh,
was.
such a treasure. Yes.
Was, yeah. Listen, I'm going to have to bounce in just a
Of
few.
course.
So
Of
if we
course.
need to,
No,
uh,
I think this is actually a really natural stopping point just because I don't want to jump into the next chapter. But if you want to close
oh,
off with, as in chapter 15, it's technically like Christmas and Boxing Day and all that. And
yeah,
we are talking in December right now. And, I know you've got holiday things and traditions, but I wish you, of course, all the best with the Christmas
yeah.
and all of that. Do you have fun things planned?
Uh, so I just took the whole family to Disneyland. So that was my Christmas present to them.
Amazing.
All 13, yeah. All
Oh,
my DNA, my girlfriend, and her children. It
that's
was
quite a trip.
marvelous. Yeah. But I am looking forward to discussing the Boxing Day events with you. And the other thing is they are going to discuss, and you're going to, as you go into chapter 15, I just want to almost warn you, is that this is going to be a Christmas that is a little different than our modern Christmas. It's not bad, it's just different. Every year at Christmas, I reread A Christmas Carol
Of course
by
you do.
Charles Dickens, and I believe that Dickens invented modern Christmas in the same way that Coca-Cola invented the modern St. Nicholas Santa Claus. Okay. And
Oh,
when you read this chapter, you're going to see it's a lot more about being together and sitting in rooms. And, you know, with my family, we're going to probably play Jackbox and, and we're probably going to, maybe even play some cards and all that. But if I can just remind all of our listeners I know this is a holiday season and holidays can bring out the best and worst in us, but if we can just remember that since humans first, looked up, the longest night of the year is coming up, and that's what Christmas is all about. Bringing light into the darkness. And if I could just encourage all of our listeners to, in these times where if you perceive evil, don't respond to evil with evil. Be kind. Be kind. Be nice. And, well, let's all make a difference.
well said as always. Dan, John, everyone, it's always such a pleasure, and I do wish you and your family a Merry Christmas.
And have yourself a merry. Hey, you're the best. Let's talk soon about chapter 15, okay?
Absolutely will do.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye now.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to The Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram or Facebook.